Let's start with the transfer window, shall we? Perhaps not as busy as we thought it might have been on that final day. So let's have a quick look back at some of the deals that happened and some of those that didn't. Alfie, I'm going to give you the unenviable task of trying to make sense of the Che Adams thing, because that seemed to be changing by the hour on Friday. But ultimately, he stays, which is good.
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit of a surprise if you follow the reports from the day before. There was a couple, I think, inaccurate ones saying that he was on the way to Wolves and the medical had been agreed and all this sort of stuff. That was obviously never true. But Wolves were very much the only option at that point for Che. Obviously Saints had knocked back bids from Everton and Bournemouth before that. I think Fulham and Crystal Palace, as I mentioned a couple of weeks, just never felt that interest, never got interested. I think Mateta scoring goals, Fulham may have signed somebody else, or they didn't get Paulinho out the door. I can't quite remember. But it was the final day. It looked like I felt that Che was probably going to leave, to be honest. And then about 2 o'clock, about 2:30, I actually texted George because I got told that it was more likely he would stay. And then obviously the Athletic, fair play to them, they broke that one and got that story out. And obviously the timeline goes a little bit mental. Wolves, basically, the club felt that was never going to happen. They felt that it was never going to get off the line.
This was the deal where he signs for another 12 months and then we loan him straight out.
Yeah, he would sign an extended deal. They would loan him out. They pay a few million for his loan fee. It'd be 15 million obligation if he played a certain amount of games, and there was potential for some add-ons as well. And then, to be fair, from a business point of view, it kind of makes sense for Southampton because if he goes and he doesn't play enough games, he comes back with a longer contract, and they can sort of renegotiate his value and see what happens then. If they do get the 15 million for him, that was the price tag they wanted. So it was kind of a win-win, but as I say, it was never going to happen. And he travelled with the squad on the Friday. So clearly there was no intention of letting him go. But I think it's a massive win. And then I can understand why Russell didn't start him on the weekend, to be fair, because it's been a lot of talk about it. But I think it's a big W for the club, to be fair.
One that did come in, Steve, is Ross Stewart coming in on that 3-year deal from Sunderland. I mean, 40 goals in 81 games for Sunderland. I know he's coming back from injury, but that seems like another astute capture.
His recent record's very good, certainly. I think I wonder if he maybe had sort of second thoughts about 2:45 yesterday afternoon. But no, I mean on the face of it, that looks a good deal. The only obvious question mark that people have obviously been throwing around is a slight sort of injury issue that seems to be a kind of recurring theme maybe. But at the end of the day, you've got to trust that a player's, once he's over a particular injury, then you're going to be able to get him out on that pitch more often than not. And I mean the price tag for the goal return that he's put out there in recent years, I think that's a decent deal. And I mean, my one concern was that it was whether that deal was contingent on Che Adams leaving. Obviously, it turns out that wasn't the case, which is a relief because I think we were probably all agreed that we needed another goal scorer anyway. So yeah, getting him through the door. If I don't know what his fitness situation is like, whether he's going to be ready to go next Friday or not.
I think so. The Sunderland boss, Tony Mowbray, said that he was hoping during the international break to get him back in behind closed doors friendly for the first time, which would then probably signal about 2, 3 or 4 weeks of further recovery. So he probably won't be playing till the start of October.
Okay, I mean that's not a disaster, is it, by any stretch of the imagination?
Especially not if Che stays. That's the other thing, isn't it? Had Che left, then that might be a bit more urgent.
But I think it's one of those you always want to give sort of headline arrivals, and I think given that he arrived on deadline day to a fair bit of fanfare, I think that's what he is. I think you always want to give those sort of players sort of an early run out and sort of let the fans see what they're all about. Early doors. I mean, didn't go quite so well for another arrival yesterday, but we'll come on.
We'll get on to that,
yeah. But yeah, I think if he scores goals, if he's sort of in the Billy Sharp mold of getting a goal every other game, then yeah, he's gonna be contributing, and that's gonna be very useful for us.
Happy days, yeah, happy days. That was quite late on Friday. I mean, George, one that was confirmed quite early was Taylor Harwood-Bellis coming in from Manchester City. Was that a surprise? That one kind of went under the radar a bit, but looks like another decent capture. Good signing.
Well, he was rumoured sort of earlier on in the transfer window, perhaps the Manchester City links, making that quite an easy one to link together. But I think, yeah, he's a very good addition. He ups the double-barreled surnames in the Southampton squad, which is always handy after a couple of players with double-barreled surnames leaving the club. But on the surface, he looks like a really good sign, and alone with an obligation to buy if they go up is very good. It's not immediately putting a strain on the budget. He's also won the Championship before, so he knows how to get up. He's a captain in the England under-21 side. He won the European Championships with them. I don't think they conceded a goal during that tournament, and he made the team of the tournament for that competition. And if you look at the rest of the names in there, it's the Anthony Gordons, it's the Curtis Joneses, it's the youngsters in the Premier League that you're looking at and thinking they're future England internationals. And he seems like he could be another one of them. So to get someone through the door that Jason Wilcox clearly knows, he's spoken quite highly of him. He says he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's a leader of men, which for a 21-year-old is quite a lot of praise. So to bring someone in who's, from looking at him, seems like he's comfortable on the ball. By all accounts, he wanted the Southampton move over other Premier League moves as well, according to Jason Wilcox. So I think he's a really good get in.
Somebody that wants to come and play for us. That's nice. There were a couple of departures as well. Alfie, I mean, Don Ballard to Reading. That kind of makes sense. I know that they said they weren't going to loan anybody out unless it really was going to work for both parties. So you would like to think that he's going to go get some good game time there and hopefully score a few goals.
Yeah, that's an interesting one because Russell actually came and watched Dom play against Liverpool in the 21s after he scored 2 hat-tricks in a row. He came and watched the Snows. And, it wasn't like Dom's best game, but he was constantly trying to make things happen. Obviously, me and George were both there and having shots, and you could sort of see him talking to his staff. So I just wonder if he'd just watched him a bit closer, assessed him, and just thought, now's the time for you to go out. You're probably not going to be testing. And I guess at that point, they probably knew that maybe Che was staying, maybe Sekou was staying as well, and they just felt that it's the right time for him to get out. The one that I think is a really good one, and I'm sure that Steve would agree, is getting Bella-Kotchap out on loan. He'll come back in next season. You can sort of reassess the value then, but you don't need him anymore. You've got enough defenders, although obviously maybe that isn't totally true based on what we saw. But I felt at the time that was a good one, just to get the loan, get the wage off, and keep the harmony of the squad together.
All in all, Steve, were you quite happy with the business that was done?
I think so. I think we've trimmed the fat. We've obviously lost a lot of good players, but at the end of the day, these are also players that clearly were part of the losing mentality that this club has had for the last 2 or 3 years. So to get the sums of money that we've got for these players, I think we've done pretty well. Although obviously when you put the raw numbers out there, we've effectively broken even now from the mess of last season's expenditure. So yeah, we're back on an even keel. The owners have said and demonstrated that they're happy to cover things where necessary. So yeah, there's no concerns on that front. And I think the squad now is of a size that is at least manageable. I don't think we should be having this nonsense situation where at Staplewood there's multiple changing rooms for different groups of people just because there's too many of them. And I think if you've generally got 2 players for every position, which more or less I think we're covered there. I think some positions better than others, obviously, but that's natural. And so yeah, I think barring the most ridiculous run of injury, bad luck, I think we're quite well set. I've seen a lot. There's obviously been a lot of negative reaction after yesterday, and understandably so. But I saw someone claiming that they fully expect us to be playing League One football next season. It's like, oh, come on, take your head out.
We do like a meltdown, don't we? We do like a meltdown.
Absolutely ridiculous. Proper melodramatic. Absolute garbage. But no, the squad that we've got compares favourably with pretty much any in this league. It's about putting together the performances and getting the results, which by and large, obviously up until yesterday, we've been certainly getting the results, and most of the performances have been okay, given all the outside noise that's been going on as well, which can't have helped. But now everything is kind of settled. Everything we know who's here until at least the 1st of January. So this is kind of where the excuses have to stop, and need a big response after yesterday's shambles.
We should also mention that somehow Carl Walker-Peters is still a Southampton player, and he did it with basically no links at all as well, which is just incredible.
Madness, absolute
went
madness.
under the radar, didn't it? A quick reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, do hit that subscribe button, and then you'll be the first to see all the new videos that we post every week.